In today's video, I want to give you one vision for the future of corporate learning that, based on my experience leading corporate learning functions, puts learning in the context of solving difficult business problems, amplified by a variety of kinds of technology, one of which is AI. And I'll put this in the context of how learning functions need to manage themselves going forward, leveraging this new science and technology. First of all, it's important to avoid the problems of past corporate universities that sometimes focus too much on bricks and mortar or technology and the learning events, and not enough on diagnosing where in the company there is a bottleneck or a constraint. It could be, it's always up at the customer or financial or strategy level. And if you do a good job troubleshooting it, it may be related to sales in the current tough business environment. It could be related to resources. There's a variety of root causes of gaps between where the company wants to be, where it is now, and the reason for it. Some of those solutions required to ameliorate the bottleneck may be learning related. Now, if you really want what I consider to be one of the most refined approaches to diagnosing business problems, I recommend checking out the International Society for Performance Improvement. They've been around since 1962, and they're in 53 countries with 10 standards on how you can best make sure you're working on problems that your C-suite's losing sleep over. So that's step one. And with that context, you can also look at where there are risks that are also up at the business level that are related to mitigating the downside potential of losing customers, leveraging the upside, or more abstract concepts like job performance that's a pain point, or too much uncertainty in succession planning that's a more longer term goal, and the need to develop individuals, maybe diverse individuals, who are able to take on the senior most roles in the future. Once you've got the right set of business problems with good logic and evidence for why learning is an appropriate solution, there are some very exciting AI technologies that can combine with traditional both training and coaching approaches that go beyond just blended learning. You'll recall that in classic formal instruction, there are training classes, there are simulations where you give people a safe place to practice things. You've got different kinds of scheduled reminders to complete lessons, and usually this is deployed through a learning management system. AI increasingly is being used by companies like Docebo to offer up suggestions for additional content in a simulation, in a training class. Sometimes that's scheduled, but all related to a formal class. And similarly, although coaching used to be only high touch only, increasingly it's high touch, high tech, where AI is complementing the coach, the mentor, the peers, the well-wishers in supporting evidence-based suggestions about how people can apply learning to the real work. And I view the future of learning really as a combination of both formal and interpersonal forms of learning complemented by AI, both on the assessment of where people are in these processes without bugging them with questionnaires, unobtrusively assessing them without any questions at all, as well as AI suggesting what they do to do something remedial or to apply it to their job to the benefit of their learning goals and ultimately the business gap. One concrete example I'm pleased to share with you is the work I've done for a number of years with Professor Robert Cialdini. He is the world's expert on persuasion, and he asked me a couple of years ago if I would please help him make his traditional, very successful 2-day class more scalable. Historically, he had a class that Cialdini Method certified trainers were credentialed by him to teach in 2 days in an instructor-led bricks and mortar environment. They had some great activities in the workshop where they'd work on a wicked problem, and a capstone activity where learners actually saw how they could beat an attorney named Jerry Spence who's never lost a single case in 50 years of practice. Great class, but many people couldn't afford a coach afterwards to help them apply it. and very limited number of people that could fly in and attend an instructor-led model. The hybrid model we've helped them create leverages Professor Cialdini's newest content for both a flipped classroom approach with formal instruction, self-paced components that they can do at their leisure. They don't have to travel. It includes simulations of real persuasion situations through a situational judgment test that's calibrated with a computer adaptive test to assess their proficiency before they go in meet their coach. And for coaching, we assess not their knowledge the way the class does, but rather the reputation about implementing persuasive appeals in a way that nurtures relationships effectively. And so the coaching occurs after the training is over to help the learner implement those lessons they've learned from Professor Cialdini's principles. E-coaching is something they can schedule to remind themselves to practice deliberately and then journal, which gives visibility to their coach into how they're doing when they're not together. And they also have another AI called Nurture Notes that well-wishers, their manager, their mentor, peers, get once a week to help them support the learning environment for the individual. So I think this combination of first, diagnosing an appropriate business gap, second, combining formal and informal forms of learning complemented by AI is crucial, but so is the execution at scale globally. And that's where my last area comes in. Increasingly, companies already use digital dashboards to manage operations, and operations people in learning manage things too. They just generally don't combine the training and the coaching in one frame of reference. I'm encouraging you to think about using your digital dashboards holistically to say, all right, if the business gap needs to be closed in Q3, how many learners need to start the formal instruction by Q1, and by Q2, start the coaching so that by Q3, the business gap is likely to be closed. Combining those lead and lag indicators is key to making sure learning is relevant to executing your company's strategy. Hope you found this video useful, and I'll see you in the next one.